Yes, big up to every single one of you. 12th man is back. Big up to all of you that's here nice and early. Good afternoon, evening, or good morning, wherever you're listening around the world. I've got two legends with me right now. I've got Mr. Harry Symeou in the house, and I've got Miss Sophie Nicolaou, and they're both legends, man. And it's been too long. How are you both?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. It has been too long. You're absolutely right. I'm good. I'm cold. I'm struggling with this weather. It's not doing it for me. I got to be honest. Waking up and seeing snow out the window and all the rest of it, it's just not good, is it?
Bro,
So
-2 at some stage. I'm thinking, wow, the winter is truly here, man. Sophie, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Really well, thank you. Hope you and the family are well as well. And I'd like to report that it's -2 here, but it isn't. It's about it's going to be nice and sunny and 72 today.
Wow. I mean, I've got to say I'm kind of jealous. I don't like the cold. I love Christmas, but I hate the cold. That's the thing for me. I love Christmas is a great time of year, but my God, it's way too cold. Big up to everyone in the chat. You're all asking where Tom Canton is. No, he's not hiding. It's his birthday. Well, it's actually his birthday tomorrow, I think. But yeah, so he won't be here. And Judges is out. I don't know what he's doing. He's out partying again, man. Judge is letting his hair down. What hair he's got left anyway. So he's busy tonight as well. So it's us three, the trio. And it seems like forever since I've spoken to both of you on a podcast. I've listened to you enough, but it's nice to come on and chat Arsenal with you. It's been a nice kind of international break for me this time. I hate it normally, but I kind of was so done with watching us and so bored of watching our style of football that actually I thought maybe Gareth Southgate's England might have been a little bit more entertaining. But of course now it is Lee Carsley and now Thomas Tuchel. But now it's back to Arsenal again, man, this weekend. And it's a game that it's like kind of must win now. I think every game's kind of must win at the moment. Harry, let me start with you. I'm going to just throw some questions at you guys because I feel like the chat, there's some questions I want to ask, but there's questions that the chat I know want you to know from you guys as well. I think this title race is done already, if I'm honest with you. But if you don't feel like it is, I do think it's fair to say that we're out of it at the moment. Doesn't mean to say that we're not going to get back in it at another point in the season. But right now, I kind of feel like that we are in a right mess. 9 points behind Liverpool, obviously behind City as well. Chelsea, Tottenham, and all the teams around us are kind of looking at us like, yeah, come join us. And I don't really fancy joining them, if I'm honest with you. I want to be up at the top. How do you see things as things stand right now, Harry? Forget about how many points we are and all this. What do you make of like the performances at the of what you've seen at the start? Because I've been really disappointed, bro. I can't lie. I think we've gone backwards, man.
don't have a shock, everyone, but I'm going to agree with Dan Potts to a degree. To a degree.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, you're right.
I need water. I need water.
Mad.
I don't think I disagree with you when you say it's done. Like, I don't think anything's done in November. I don't think you can say that. But I would say, and I have been saying on my podcast for a good few weeks now, since the Newcastle game, really, that we are out of it for now. So we're in a position that it's not impossible to recover from. We could recover from it. We could go on a run now and, claw back a lot of that gap between ourselves and Liverpool. When you look at the fixtures that we've got, the fixtures that they've got, it's kind of the situation reversing itself or evening itself out, which is what happens over the course of a football season. So I do think if you ask me in 10 games and we're in the same position as we are now, then I'll probably concede the title. But at this stage, I still feel like we're in a position that if we put together a very good run, we can recover from. And there's no reason not to believe that when everybody's back, available, fit and firing, that we can't go on that run because we've gone on those runs over the last couple of seasons at various points. So there's previous there to suggest that we're capable. So let's talk again in about 10 games time. But I think our current position, it's fair to say that we're not going to win the title. But I wouldn't close the door on saying that we could still get ourselves back into this race because it's football and lots of things can happen. In terms of the way we're playing at the moment, Dan, yeah, it has been boring at times. It has been a difficult watch. And I think what we've tried to do, and sometimes successfully, but sometimes unsuccessfully, is we've looked at our team. We've been without Odegaard. We've been without Odegaard and Saka at points as well. And I think what Mikel tried to do was lean on what he perceived to be our next biggest strength, which was our defensive capability. I think he looked at some of those tricky away games in particular And he thought, if we go into a slightly deeper block, if we play with sort of Havertz up there and Trossard alongside him and try and play in a slightly different way, that's the way to go. That's the way to manage the damage that we've suffered as a result of losing those players. And that's the way to try and get through. And at the beginning of that little run, it was working. And we went to Spurs and we beat them. And we went to Villa and we beat them. And, you know, we got a draw at Manchester City. We were desperately unlucky not to win at Manchester City. Like, you know, so many things went right during that period, but the back end of that period has been a real struggle. And that lack of creativity has been a problem. So I think it's been boring at times recently. The lack of spark is clear for everybody to see. I don't actually agree with all the decisions that Mikel's made. I don't agree with Ethan Nwaneri's chances being so few and far between when we're clearly lacking that type of player. I don't understand why we were so keen to sign Raheem Sterling, for example, at the end of the window, when you then go into games and you're looking for goals, and rather than bringing on him, you're bringing on Zinchenko first or someone else. You know, that has baffled me a little bit. I didn't like the team that he picked at Bournemouth. I thought that was completely wrong from the beginning. So I've looked at some of the things that we've done this season, and I've had my disagreements, but I also accept that it's been a tough period with a lot of things going against us, send-ins off, injuries, etc., etc. And to me, now it's on Arsenal to go and put a run together and show us what they're made of over this next 10 or so league games. Right up until we play Manchester City, that's where I want us to show our mettle.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot that you've said there that I actually agree with as well, Harry. I'm not denying that it's not been hard for Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people think, oh, you know, this is easy. We should be top by 12 points. Like, that's just not the case. It's difficult and it's been hard. And I don't know, I suppose I want to ask you, Soph, where you're at with the reasons why we are 9 points off of Liverpool right now. And some people are pointing towards referees. Some are pointing towards red cards. Some are pointing towards injuries. I'm pointing towards Mikel a lot more than I am those three things, because I'm not quite sure where we're going here in terms of the style of play, the fact that it's looking completely different to when we were so great and scintillating to watch back in 22, 23, and even at the back end of last season, and with the same crop of players, by the way. I don't quite think he's got it right so far this season, and I think he needs to change it up. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, all valid points. Someone in the chat I noticed, I think it was Brad, that said we couldn't keep an 8-point lead last season. So what makes us think we can make up 9 points? I just wanted to address that. For me, I think that Arsenal like being the hunter. I don't think we've proved yet that we enjoy being the hunted. And there's a huge difference between the two, especially when you've got a team that may have won at other clubs, but collectively as a group, they've not won anything together. They don't know what it feels like. They don't know what it tastes like. They know how to be competitive, this current team, but they do not and have proven to show that they don't have the tools and what it takes to be able to win. So that's a valid point, and I think that's where fans might be coming from, in the sense that why, right? Mikel Arteta, I agree with Harry, has made some mistakes this season, and I believe this is the season where I'm not calling for his head. We'll see where it shakes out the end of the season, but I think this is a season where he had to step up another notch and prove the elite wages he's on at that elite manager level, that, you know, he warrants and deserves it. There's a lot of stuff about Mikel Arteta that if you don't support Arsenal, people don't like. And there are a lot of fans that, you know, he rubs them up the wrong way. But I think sometimes I always worried about whether or not he had this Pep Guardiola chip in him, having come from the Pep Guardiola coaching tree, right? Is square peg, round holes, trying to be a bit too clever, thinking you're a football genius, when really football is as simple as it gets. And when you have a team that hasn't been able to kind of perform under the highest pressure, your tendency as a manager, and people I speak to in the game, say keep it simple. Whereas I think sometimes Mikel overcomplicates it. You can talk all you want about red cards. That's on us. That's discipline. That needs to improve. That needs to be better. You know, we can't cry wolf. It happened to West Ham this season. It's happened to many teams, Manchester United at West Ham this season. It's happened to a lot of teams. The discipline part is on us. Elite level, fine margins again that you need to reach in order to catch a Manchester City. If you don't have that, and if you can't make up those margins in simple things like mental engagement in a game and discipline, then that's not good progression either. So I think there's a lot of things that we can fix, but I also think the injuries in football happens to many teams, but it's how you handle that and how prepared are you for those injuries when they come. And it just seems like over the last 3 seasons, have we been really prepared when we lose significant players? I think Liverpool have got a great squad. I think Slot inherited a great squad. Manchester City seem to have like for like, but look at the players that are out for them at the moment, and they're struggling too. I hope that we've gone through our adversity early on this season. The difference between this season and last season is we kept it close, and that's going to be our biggest challenge. But we're going to find out a lot about this team, and we're going to find out a lot about him in the coming months.
Yeah, facts. Listen, that's why I wanted to talk about this kind of style of play thing that I kind of tried to title it with today, because I'm a bit confused, I suppose. Harry, let me come to you with it, because there's, by the way, Newman is such a legend. He cracks me up in this chat, man.
Is he already going off?
Let's be patient and only sack Arteta if he draws the next game. He is so funny, man. Big up to Newman. Big up to the chat. But no, Harry, I've got to be real. Let's take it back a little bit further, right? Because he's been here 5 years now. The first time he came in, obviously, he was playing a style of football that consisted of smashing the ball up to Aubameyang. It won us a cup. And then we started to look at what we actually had, started to get rid of some players that were seen as being quite toxic around the dressing room, bringing in players, giving them time. And if I'm honest with you, it wasn't great. We started to be a little bit more attractive in terms of our attack, and we missed out on the top 4. And then we've surprised everybody and started playing scintillating football from the off. And it was like, whoa, Arsenal were in a title race here. And then I think there was a little bit of PTSD. I think some people felt that Mikel Arteta was like, we can't play like that the whole time. We're going to fall off if we do that. Let's be a little bit more compact and resolute to the start with. And that's what we did last season. And then we started to become scintillating on the back end of last season, where we went on this crazy run. This time, it's like we've changed everything again. And it's, let's try and get someone who's over 6 foot lined up, put one of them on the ball, and it's Ødegaard and Saka, and I don't want the rest of you to do anything. Just be over 6 foot and line up and try and get it in your bonds. And I don't want to be doing that 5 years in, where we've spent £700 million. So I spoke to Sophie about this on the hybrid squad. I want this guy to actually have a style of play and stick with it. And I'm not sure we have a style. I think we have a load of little bits of pieces that he can do. He adapts every game. I don't think we should be doing this much. I think he's overthinking. He just needs to relax a little bit and trust him, the players and the squad that he got. Because when I looked at that season where I thought we were going to win the league, and to be fair, a lot of people thought we were going to win it last season and the season before, I don't think any Arsenal fan thought he needs to screw this up and start again. This is dreadful. I think most Arsenal fans thought, crikey, look at this. If we add X, Y, and Z, we go again. We've got a great style of play now. We're really hard to beat. We're great to watch. We're scoring loads of goals. And it seems this season it's just gone to pot, bruv. So where has this style of play gone as far as you're concerned, mate?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think the criticism of the style of play is harsh, because this is not the football that Mikel Arteta wants to play. Like, the last 2 years have shown us that. He didn't just wake up one morning and go, that swashbuckling, attacking, fast, fluid football that we were playing, I'm going to chuck it in the bin so we can go all Jose Mourinho like that. That wasn't the thinking. He's trying to find a way to get through a time where we've been without important parts of our team. Now, the right argument is, should your style have to change as dramatically as ours has when you're without 1 or 2 key players? That's the real problem here. That's what you should be honing in on, in my opinion. And it should be, well, when Ødegaard can't play, who can come in and give us stylistically something similar? When Saka can't play, who can come in and give us stylistically something similar? That's the way I look at this. I don't think for a second that he's decided to go down this negative route and has changed his idea of what good football looks like. I think with Mikel Arteta, he's a lot more adaptable than some of the other top end managers, in that he's not afraid to go, this probably isn't going to work today. Let's do something different. And I talked about him leaning on that defensive strength, because the defense has been really, really good, generally speaking, for a couple of seasons now. And so I don't blame him for thinking, I haven't quite got what I need at the other end of the pitch right now. So let's lean on that a little bit and go, for example, a little bit more direct. Let's use Kai Havertz's strengths. Let's go over the top of those mid blocks that we keep facing. And at times, as I said earlier, it's worked. It's worked at some of the big away grounds this season. So yeah, I disagree with a lot of the criticism he's getting about the style of play. If Odegaard's back in the side and Saka's playing and we've got the right midfield and all the rest of it, and then we're watching Arsenal turn up and put in these turgid displays, then I'll be the first one to say, hold on a minute, what's going on here? But I think you have to accept that we've been without key players. We've had players playing when they're clearly not fit. We've had Ben White playing for most of the season, and now he's having surgery because he's been carrying a knock, Mikel Merino came in and broke his shoulder and was out for how long? So we haven't really had the ability, I don't think, to play the way that we want to play. And what you need to do in those situations, if you want to be among the elite and compete, is that you need to stay in the mix. And unfortunately, we've dropped a few too many points for me to say that right now. But I don't think that's as a consequence of Mikel's change of style, if you want to call it that. I just think that he's doing what he can to try and get us through. And unfortunately, the margins have gone against us on some of those occasions. So I'm not worried about the style of play. I'm pretty confident in saying that over the next 10 games, you're going to see Arsenal look like Arsenal again.
Well, look, Soph, we've got to, in the next 10 games, look like Arsenal again, because, Harry says that we're out of it for now. I think that we could be out of the title already come the weekend if things don't go our way. So we have to now make sure that we're 10 games and we win as many games as possible, pick up as many points. One thing I will say, which Harry's mentioned, if Mikel Arteta is making do at the moment by this style that people are saying is not great to watch, and I will add this, so I don't actually mind the style of play if you win 1-0, 2-1. But when you don't win games and you play this way, it's not good, right? But should we really be going to these kind of situations with only having a couple of our players out? Because I look at it now and I think, well, we've got a bench, which everybody told me was a good bench, but we're having to play like this just because 2 or 3 of our first team players are out. I would argue that that's been evidence that we've had a shambolic couple of windows. That was what I would say. Because if we're having Odegaard's out, Ben White's got a knock, he's have to play with an injury, Saka gets a couple of knocks, and we've got players like Sterling and Jesus and Wanyeri and Trossard or Martinelli, whatever one you want to play, and people aren't then saying that they're good enough, then why do we have to then go and make do and change this style by lumping balls in the box when we've actually got players on the bench who are earning a bloody good wage, by the way, that aren't good enough to come on, and we've got to change our style for this? I would argue that just points more evidence towards the fact that we had a poor window, like I said it was. That is a shambles, Soph, at this level.
There's a couple of things there. The first thing is about Mikel and how he's managing and the style. And I feel like this season he's managing fearful versus fearless. Previous 2 seasons, I feel like he has been he's had a fearless approach to this team. I also think we're seeing the results of really squeezing too much out of a starting 11. There's a lot of football that gets played these days, and Mikel likes to operate with a small squad. He loves and trusts that team that really was put up against Chelsea. We've seen him trust that team the most over the last 2 or 3 seasons. And he needs, I think, to find a better balance of not only in-game management, but also how you manage the players. And it's harder to do that when players are injured, yes. But it also can't be an excuse, right? Because you've seen now, Harry mentioned Benjamin White. Timber has come back and has been in and out the squad. What the hell is going on with Tomiyasu? Do not know. Zinchenko seems surplus to requirements now. Jesus just isn't the same player he was in the first season and hasn't been the same player from that first season. Why even go and get Sterling? Why bother when you're not playing him? I would argue that Sterling looked like one of our most kind of dangerous players in that Bournemouth game, but he was sacrificed. We've seen him perform well in the EFL Cup, but that's not a barometer or any measure at all, is it? So I think with him, Clive Palmer said on the show, and I think I may have mentioned this to you, Dan, when we did get off the potsy. He felt like that Manchester City game gave him another idea. Now, that time, remember, it was just Odegaard that was missing, right? There wasn't any, and of course, Tomiyasu and whoever, but the majority of the team was intact in that match. He thinks that game gave Mikel another idea, who's a huge ideas person, in how to play in the Premier League. And I'm not sure that was a good thing or a bad thing. That defensive performance showed him something that it seems like he's adopted since. And I don't know if it's an excuse to say the challenges have made him play that way. You see lesser teams, Southampton managers, say what you want about them, and of course they'll probably get relegated, but they've stuck to a philosophy. He believes in his style, believes in what he's playing. Now, granted, that didn't do well for Burnley and Vincent Kompany last season either, but you do see teams, Maresca, he believes in playing a certain way, you're seeing a certain style. And I think that half the problem this season is the belief I saw in the team last season and the manager. I'm not seeing it this season. There's something lacking, not only in style, not only tactically, not only how they adapt in games, playing games. There is not that fight and passion, Dan, that we've seen over the last 2 seasons. There's not that intimidation factor that we slowly built up over the last 2 seasons. It feels like teams think we're beatable again, and I don't think we've helped ourselves in how we're applying ourselves in matches. For me, that's the biggest thing. Where is the hunger? It's all well and good talking about results, but for me, the hunger has been missing, and it's been glaringly missing this season.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. If Clive, and big up to Clive, by the way, if Clive thinks that Mikel Arteta has looked at that game in that half of football and gone, wow, this is how we need to play, I'll be extremely worried and looking for a new manager, because that is worrying. Because that is not this is what style we want to take forward. That is this is how to get through this game in the last 25 minutes with 10 men. That is not a style that you need to take forward. And I don't know. Go on, Harry. I feel like you're going to come in.
Yeah. I was just going to say on that, like, I love Clive. I think he's fantastic. I don't quite agree with that, though. I feel like what that second half showed Mikel Arteta was that when his team needed to dig in and defend, they could do it against the very best, but not to the point where it made him go into games against lesser teams and play that way. Let's remember the circumstances that we were in when we had to go into that defensive mode against Manchester City. We'd started the game quite shakily, and we started the game shakily because we played with too much of a high line, and they played a ball in behind that Haaland went through and scored from. Right? That's how the game begun. Was it Haaland? I think it was Haaland. I can't even remember.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So they opened us up because we were too proactive, in my opinion. And then, well, after we weathered that early storm, we went for them. We went for Manchester City. Our left back stepped out of left back and went to the edge of the box and banged in a cracker from the edge of the box. Our centre backs were dominating from set pieces. We were aggressive. We went for Manchester City. And right on the stroke of half time, when Leandro Trossard got sent off and we went down to 10 men, we realized that we had to change because we were playing against the best team in the world. And I think that second half was a positive. And I know we didn't hold on to get all 3 points in the end, but that's where I made the point when I last spoke, where I said, I felt that when we went through this period without that creativity, we looked at our defensive strength and we thought we can lean on that a little bit. Maybe what he saw at City gave him the belief that he could lean on that a bit more than he should. But I don't for a second think that he thinks that that's
But Harry,
way of playing.
What about Bournemouth, Shakhtar? I'm missing a couple games here from the Premier League. I understand going to Italy and playing the way we did against Atalanta and Inter, but it hasn't been sexy football at all. It has definitely been batten down that. It feels like it's battened down the hatches, let alone
Against
play.
Leicester and Southampton at home. It wasn't
Southampton.
outstanding. Southampton and Leicester. I mean,
Mm.
I know we actually made some changes against Southampton, had to bring our players on. Leicester, we got a last-minute goal to win the game. I think it was 4-2 in the end. We got 2 last-minute goals to win the game. So I agree with Sophie. It ain't been great, Harry, this season. It ain't been great to watch.
It hasn't. But I think, like, for example, Shakhtar, it was a game that was sandwiched in between a couple of Premier League games when our squad was in a bad place. And we just needed to win. And if you can do it only exerting yourselves at 60, 70%, then you do that. Because what Arsenal will have learned over the last couple of seasons is that we've burnt out. You know, the first season we were seriously in the title race, we burnt out at the end. Last season, we didn't. We kept that pace and we maintained that pace for a lot longer. But we had a period around Christmas just after where we really, really struggled. And I think he's learned from those things. And I think he knows that in the early part of the season, sometimes you just have to get through. And that all these problems that we're talking about now, all these discussions, all these conversations, if you go back on all 3 of our channels, we were having the same conversations at the same stage last year. The same conversations, lack of creativity, where's the style of play gone? We were having all of the same discussions. And sometimes at various points in the season, it's just about getting through. Atalanta.
But you know what, though? Hold on one second, Harry. Getting through isn't enough, right? Getting through is for teams who are mid-tier and below. We need to find a way to get through and get the points. So that's been our Achilles heel. It's okay trying to get through during times of adversity, but you also, sorry to interrupt, you need to get through and get the points.
I agree with that, but like the people are referencing the Shakhtar game, we won it. Southampton game, we won that too. Like I get it when you want to talk about Bournemouth and Newcastle, fine, no problem. We didn't get anything from
Chelsea.
those games. Chelsea, yeah, Chelsea. You know, I get all that. But even, I mean, Chelsea, we got a point. Like, it's not a bad result to go and get against a good Chelsea side at the moment. And they are a good side because they're in the mix for the top 4. Like, again, like the Atalanta one, we went away in between Spurs and Man City and we got a draw at the home of the Europa League winners. Like, I feel like sometimes we get into this space where and maybe it's because of the bar that Man City have set, where we just feel like we have to win every single game and anything less is totally unacceptable. That's not the case. Like, you will drop points in football. That's how it works. Like, if it wouldn't be the Premier League, it wouldn't be the biggest spectacle on earth if there wasn't that scope to drop points. I just think, yes, let's talk about the games where we drop points, but in the games that we won, I don't think we need to spend that much time.
I think it's the bar that we've set. We're nowhere close to even the improbable season where no one was expecting us, to challenge for the Premier League. And listen, I totally recognize that we're going through a huge moment of adversity, but there's also other teams that got to play in those windows, right? From Europe to the Premier League. At some point, you just need to find the extra edge to overcome that. And at this point, with this team, and it's not just Mikel, it's the players as well. And key players, like when Thomas Partey is one of your best players so far this season, that worries me. I mean, I want Thomas Partey to play well, but that's worrying. Declan Rice hasn't really performed. You know, Saka's been good, hasn't been great. Kai Havertz has felt lost without Martin Odegaard. And Mikel hasn't figured out how to get the best out of probably one of our best players from January this year on to the end of the season. Trossard's dropped off. He refuses to drop him when a lot of us think he's better as a super sub. I've always agreed, and Dan and I went, Dan wanted Trossard to start. I wanted Martinelli to play out of the funk. But why isn't he performing? I mean, he seemed to do quite well against Brazil. The defense suffered a lot with Odegaard out. But when you see like Saliba not playing well and Gabriel, and they seem to have lacked confidence, and, you know, it's really alarming. And that has to be an accountability and responsibility, not only of the players, but of the manager as well. At this point, those small, fine margins need to be much better.
Yeah, It's hard to disagree with any of that because I think Raya and Partey have been our best players, to be fair, and that's not a good thing. To be honest, not that I want to see him play badly, but Harry, one thing that's really confused me is, although I think a priority is still our striker, I think everybody's crying out for a striker so loudly that it's becoming so deafening. But actually, our midfield is a joke, bro. I've got to be honest. Our midfield has been the most disappointing for me. We've got a player in Party who I agree with Sophie has been really good. He keeps playing at right back. We spent 105 million on a 6 that now looks like he's our 8. We spent 65 million on an 8 that's now our 9. We've got Marino, who I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I don't know what he is, if I'm honest with you. He's definitely not Granit Xhaka from what I can see, but I'm willing to give him more time. And when Erdegaard's out, our best backup is now scoring goals at Fulham because the 17-year-old isn't trusted. And Trossard can't really do the job there, if I'm honest. I mean, Job probably can do there, but it's not taking us to any levels, in my opinion. I think the midfield's been awful, mate. I've got to say, I don't know how we fix this, but something's got to change in it, Harry.
One of my big criticisms of Mikel Arteta has been the way he's selected the midfield. I feel like it's very clear that there are certain players that need other players around them in order to do their best work. Like, for example, right? I say that we were having similar conversations last season. There was a point, wasn't there, where we were talking about Declan Rice and saying, as a 6, he's unbelievable defensively. But when he needs to get on the ball and he needs to break the lines and he needs to move the ball out to the right and left wing nice and early in the way that Thomas Partey does, it wasn't happening. So Mikel Arteta found a solution. And what was the solution? He brought Jorginho in. And he said to Jorginho, you go and sit at the base of my midfield and you dictate the play. And Declan Rice, with his superior physical power, can babysit you a little bit, hold your hand, help you out defensively, and protect you enough so that you can get on the ball and you can do all the things that Declan Rice doesn't have in his locker. And then when Partey came back, who can do a bit of both, that freed up Rice to go even further forward. And that's when we were at our best. This thing of Partey at right back, it's not ideal. I hate seeing it, but we've had so many injury problems in that position. Whether it's Ben White, Timber's broken down a couple of times this season. Tomiyasu's nowhere to be seen again. Like, so there's multiple players that have been out in that position, and that was the way that Mikel seeked to deal with that issue. Now, I think it was wrong because I think if you take out Partey, especially with no Odegaard, you're setting yourself up for a disaster because Rice can't sit at the base and dictate, in my opinion. Mikel Merino can't do what Martin Odegaard does. And then you just end up with this really dull midfield with no creativity whatsoever. They might win a few aerial duels because they're all 6-footers, but that's about it. That's about it. And that's why I've been saying for weeks, months even, in the absence of Martin Odegaard, you cannot play without at least a Partey or a Jorginho in your midfield. There are games, Dan, where I would have taken Trossard out of that stupid false 9 role along with Kai Havertz, and I'd have played Jorginho and Partey, because if you can't get the creativity in the final third, then at least have it a little bit deeper on the pitch somewhere so that one of those players can get free and get forward and get in. I think Jorginho has been criminally used this season. I'm not saying that he's the solution or
Harry's new house internet's gone nuts.
Yeah, your internet is flying, mate. Your internet is flying. Can you hear us? Yeah, he's gone.
Frozen.
He's gone.
You know, I do agree. I totally agree with him about Jorginho. Why is Jorginho like persona non grata right now? This is what happens. Listen, I think what Mikel has done and been the only manager to challenge Pep. You know, we love the duels between Klopp and Pep and Man City and Liverpool and stuff like that. But Jorginho, in certain games where we're lacking controlling the tempo of a game, where we're lacking all of those things, Dan, why has he not played? And you know, the right back thing with Thomas Partey, it works for a game against Liverpool, but I think what he does sometimes is he sees something that works for a game or two, and he thinks he can sustain that by continuing to do it. I couldn't agree more with Harry about Jorginho. I have no idea why he hasn't utilized him during this Odegaard injury period. None at all. And he also had the chance to play Waneri as well. And I don't care. You see, and people say to me, La Liga's different. It's a soft league, whatever. But Yamal is shining for Barcelona. You see young players shining across Europe for their teams. He's ready. And, I understand we want to protect him, but he had the opportunities to choose certain players. And park Winari aside, Jorginho, I feel like, could have brought the experience on the pitch as well. I just don't get that.
I know it was away to Preston in the cup. Sorry about my internet, by the way. I don't know what happened there. But like Jorginho was unreal in that game. Like I know it was against weaker opposition, but we were so in control because him and Zinchenko were both on the pitch. Now, I'm not saying that I want Zinchenko to play every game, and I'm not saying that I want Jorginho to play every single game. But when it's clear that you don't have enough technical quality in your side and those two are sitting on the bench, it frustrates me because the one criticism that if I had to pick one criticism to lead with on Mikel Arteta this season, and overall, I don't think he's done a terrible job and I don't think he deserves a lot of the stick he's getting. But if there was one thing, it's that he's leaned on physicality so much that he's almost forgotten that you need a certain level of technical quality in your side if you want to be competitive at the top level. And the players that we have within our ranks that can bring that are your Jorginhos, your Partey's, your Odegaards, your Zinchenko's. Ethan Nwaneri falls into that category as well. And some of them, or one of them, at the absolute minimum, has to be on the pitch at all times. And the balance has just gone too far the other way for me. And that's where we're really, really struggling. Everyone's slagging off Kai Havertz as well. I mean, the guy has been running to the ground. When was the last time he missed a game? When was the last time he missed a game? He plays every game. Crazy, and guess what? He plays 90 minutes in all of them as well. Like, he plays with a cut up head. He plays with a bandage around his head. Like, he just keeps going and going and going. Is there any wonder that his level has maybe dropped off a little bit as well? There's a lot of things that I don't agree with this season, but I also have a lot of confidence that we're going to be able to turn the ship back around and at least make a fight at the title race again.
Let me just ask you, Harry, because I know you've got to shoot, bro. I wanted to ask you about this weekend because Ben White's out. I don't know if Calafiori and Tomiyasu are 100% fit, but we expect them to be in and around that. What's the team going to be? Because I feel like we need Thomas Partey in that midfield, but I'll be really surprised if Timber and Calafiori both play. So we might play Partey at right back and Timber at left back, is my thinking, which then allows Rice, Marino and Ødegaard to be in midfield, which I still think he wants to play, by the way, long term. I still think that when everyone's fit is the midfield that he wanted to play. Rice in the 6, Marino in the 8 and Ødegaard in the 10. So what's your thoughts for this weekend, bro?
I think he'd be silly to take Partey out of the midfield unless he really desperately has to. And I don't think he really desperately has to. I think he can play Timber at right back. And if Calafiori's not back, stick Kivior at left back, play Zinchenko at left back. You've got options. I don't think Forest will be an easy game. And I know people are going to go, look at him making excuses for Arsenal. This Forest team really remind me of Nuno's Wolves. Yeah. In that they're really well set up, really well drilled, and they pack a punch in the wide areas. And they got Chris Wood up top in really, really good form at the moment. But yeah, that's how I would do it. I want Partey in the midfield. For me, the best midfield is Partey, Rice, and Ødegaard. Like, you can say what you like about Mikel Merino, but he's not shown enough yet to break into that. And someone said in the comments that I'm mistaken about Merino because if he wasn't technically that good, he wouldn't play for Spain. Have people got like really short memories? Do they not remember that Mikel Merino was a sub for Spain in the Euros? Because he was coming on in certain game states.
Agreed.
When they needed something different. He wasn't the starting go-to guy for a reason. He was the guy that offered something a little bit out of the ordinary with regards to what we normally expect from a Spain side. And that helped them in certain states of the game and certain phases of the game. So I'm not saying he's not got any technical quality whatsoever, but I just don't think he's a tempo setter. I don't think he's someone that makes you tick. And I don't think you can have him and Rice in the same midfield in the absence of a real obvious playmaker, whether that's the deep playmaker or the guy that plays a bit further forward in Martin Ødegaard. So, yeah, I think someone said he started the second group game. Check out the rest of the tournament, though. You've highlighted one game. Check out where he fared in the rest of the tournament. And it's not to slag him off.
True, man. It's true. They played Rodri, Ruiz, and Olmo. Sorry, were there three? I don't know why
Exactly.
people thought Marino started. Yeah, he come on and he scored a good header against Germany, and he used to come on in the finals and other games to do well. But come on, man, him and Zubimendi were on the bench. Like, let's just say it how it is. Like,
Yeah.
that's how good Spain are. But for me, Marino, I never looked at that signing, guys, and thought, oh my God, that completes it. We're ready. I looked at him and I thought, okay, he comes in and he's an upgrade on El Neni. What else is there? I didn't look at the Marino signing and go, wow. So he's not the one. I'm not looking at him going, oh my God, why is he not winning us a league title? That's not what the signing for me was.
He's not the super X factor, is he?
That's
I would
what
have been
I'm
more excited about Zubimendi as a signing. But
100%.
yeah.
I think he
Yeah,
was.
100%.
We talked a lot, didn't we, in the summer about floor raisers? Like that's what he was supposed to be. I think like someone to come in and sort of lift the level of the squad rather than be someone that you rely upon every single week. And I'll be honest, like we all looked at Thomas Partey and thought, not that he's washed, that's harsh, but I think we all looked at it and thought, this maybe can't go on that much longer. And he's turned up this season and he's been unbelievable. He's been in inspired form and he's now like the first name on the team sheet again. So
Contract year.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Contract year. He's playing for it, isn't he? He's doing his bit. But yeah, I look at Arsenal now and I think we've had a really difficult start to the season. The fixtures have been horrendous. And that's not an excuse, but I'm really looking at the team now and thinking you got to show us something to get us all back on side. I think they will. And I think if we have this conversation after Christmas, I don't think we're going to be top of the league. And I don't think we're going to be, within 1 or 2 points. But I think the conversation around whether the title race is over or not will probably look quite different. And hopefully that's the case.
Well, if it isn't, then I don't know what we're going to be talking about, Harry. That's for sure. But listen, man, big up for coming on. I know you got to shoot. I really appreciate your time, man. I know you're busy, so I really appreciate you coming on, man. And we'll see you next time, bro.
Thanks for having me, mate. All the best, guys.
Harry.
Cheers.
Come on, man. Come on. So let's close by a couple of questions I've got for you, because I think you and I are pretty similar when it comes to football. There's a lot of things that I agree with you on. There's certainly some things we disagree on. And I feel like it'd be good to kind of debate some of those now. I did a show last night. I don't know if you did see any of it at all, but Igal and me were kind of going back and forth. Igal thinks the Cronkies are fantastic and it's like they're going to take us next level and all this kind of stuff. And I've never really had anything not good to say about them. I think that's harsh. I've never had any. I've always questioned their ambition to win at Arsenal. That is my kind of big question mark. Now, there's one way to shut me up by doing that, and it's by going, da-da, and we're yet to do that. So I kind of don't know where the your thoughts are on this. Now, last night we did a show dedicated to it, so I don't want to go into it all again, but I really would like to get your kind of thoughts.
What was the temperature of that conversation? Unfortunately, I didn't get to catch the show, but what was the overall temperature of that conversation?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because the reason we spoke about it was because of the rumours about the £500 million to go onto an 80k stadium, which is being rumoured to be the case. Now, if that £500 million comes out the Cronkies' pocket, I'm all cool for it. But if we're self-sustaining on it, we're obviously going to have a poor window again because of what we did last time when we tried to pay for a stadium and had to win with kids and all this kind of stuff. So I'll be really interested to get your thoughts on that. Do you think the Cronkies will put the money in themselves, or do you think it will be taken from the club? Blah, blah, blah. That was the conversation we had. And in terms of the temperature, look, Igal, he believes that Cronkies are superb over in America and they're going to be superb for us, basically, in a nutshell. And that we can't blame the Cronkies. It's who they're employing as the problems, basically, which is quite confusing because Igal's been bigging up the project for the last 5 years, from what I can hear. But now all of a sudden they're not as good. I just have the question, are these Cronkies in it to win it? Or are they in it to just get us Champions League and be happy to get us in and around that position? Because they've done that, fine. That's great. We were doing that anyway without the Cronkies, by the way. But they've come in and they've kept us in Champions League now. That's great. But where is the let's win now? That's what my thoughts are. And when when I'm looking at what money they've put in 20 years, which is £200 million, which is, let's be real, a shambles of their own money. And when I look at how we've bought and sold players under their watch, I get frustrated when I look at Chelsea's youth academy making more money from players sold than Arsenal Football Club. There is a problem there. So, you could look at the people that are running it on the ground and say they're not good enough. Well, sack them then. Get rid of them, Cronkies. If they're not good enough to win, move people in, That's where I'm at. That's my questions anyway, really, about them.
Very, very thoughtful and interesting, because I always garner a lot of vitriol when I defend the Cronkies. right? I think it's very clear they were never going to be fully vested in the club until they took sole ownership. So let me ask you this, since they have done, right? People say if they weren't ambitious, they would have just kept Emery, right? If they weren't ambitious, would they've sanctioned £100 million move for Declan Rice? When you look at what fans, there's a difference between what owners are willing to do and what fans want them to do. And a lot of fans want the Cronkies to be Abramovich. Put your hand in your pocket, mate, and buy, buy, buy. But we've seen what's happening in football, Dan, whether it's fair or foul with the financial landscape of things. Newcastle have the richest owners. Their hands are tied, right? There are a lot of kind of caveats to how you can do business in modern day football. And when you look at the Cronkies since Mikel's taken over, have they not shown faith and ambition year on year? A lot of the times I hear on your show, other shows, he spent 700 million plus. It may not have all come out of the Cronkies' pocket, but they have given him the power to do that. They are, and when I say this too, some people say, here goes the PR merchant. But the truth is that, this summer I had a one-on-one conversation with Josh Kroenke. And I was absolutely blown away by not only his passion for Arsenal, but his overall knowledge base and, kind of, I don't know, the character and personality that came out when he was talking about sports and winning, right? Now, just for you all, I don't get brown envelopes, okay? It's an opportunity on a tour where over the last 2 or 3 years, I've been able to talk to certain people at the club. And this summer, I spoke to him. I walked away from that conversation thinking, bloody hell, I thought I was smart, but I'm not that smart. And you're talking about owners, and this is where also people will say, Dan, American sports, don't compare it to England, you silly whatever. But the truth is, you have to look at it. So, the Glazers won the Super Bowl with the Bucks, but look what's happened to Manchester United. You've got John Henry, who brought a World Series to Boston after years of curse and took Liverpool to a totally other level. And maybe he's looking to get out or not. The point is that these guys, yes, they want to make money. They're all in it to make money. The whole world is run around wanting to make money, Dan. The local corner shop wants to make money. Big corporations want to make money. We are seeing a situation where instant gratification on social media, making money, doesn't matter what your message is, as long as you get clicks and likes, you make money, right? TikTok, whatever, makes superstars these days. These are serious people running multi-billion-dollar businesses, and they have invested. Now, the stadium thing, they moved a team from St. Louis to Los Angeles. I didn't necessarily agree with that because it hurt the community of St. Louis that were reliant on home games in the NFL to make a lot of money in their bottom line during a season. But he was determined to do that because he wanted to bring the Rams back to LA. He built an $8 billion stadium. Of course, in American football, some of that is taxpayer money. That's local funded money. That's council money, right? But he still had to build that. And a lot of that came out of his own pocket. He was driven to bring a Super Bowl to Los Angeles. He did that. He trusted a young manager in Sean McVay, who had lost the championship game and lost the Super Bowl game, but he kept faith with him. The Denver Nuggets were literally dead, revived. They won the NBA. The Colorado Avalanche, one of the most storied franchises in NHL, totally gone, revitalized them. They won the Stanley Cup. Their lacrosse team won the national championship. They're now reinvigorating the Colorado Rapids and have invested money in that with Chris Armas, who was the assistant to Ralph Rangnick at Manchester United. Another high that's very Mikel Arteta-like and Sean McVay-like. They want to win, Dan. They do. They want to win, but they also have to be cognizant of running a business, how that business is run. all the people that cry out, what is it you want? You want to spend 120 million on Isaac? Fine, I get that. You want to spend 100 million on Gyökeres? Fine, I get that. Those missing pieces that take you next level and make you reach that Manchester City level. But they're responsible owners. And tell me this, I have heard people bitching about the growth of the stadium. All I've heard is people complain about the stadium. The seats aren't the same. You know, they've done the outside. Now they want to work on the inside and they want to grow it. Doesn't that show ambition? And I understand that some people are like, well, if they do that, then they're not going to invest in players. How do you know that? How do you actually know that?
That was my question, because I genuinely don't know that. I genuinely don't know, because at the moment it's only a rumor that we're going to kind of increase the capacity. I think it will happen, but it's only a rumor. I definitely know that we're going to be refurbishing inside first. That's going to be easily done, and it needs to be, by the way, because it's tired now. It's 17 years old. So
I agree. I agree.
That will happen.
But Dan, my point is that people who think the Kroenkes don't want to win. Josh Kroenke is very different to Stan Kroenke. Stan's baby is NFL, the Rams. His brother-in-law bought the Denver Broncos last year. He's a real estate guy. He's a business guy. Josh Kroenke is a sports guy. He's the reason the Denver Nuggets won the NBA. He's the reason the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup again. He's the reason Arsenal have been improving season on season on season. If people think they don't care, and when you see them together, like they're very close, all of these, like Arteta's in a WhatsApp with Sean McVay, they talk, the way they support, the way I saw them greet Mikel Arteta in the summer, they believe in him. They believe in what they're doing. They truly think that Arsenal is getting to the next level. I spoke to someone high up. So you could feel the anger and the frustration at not winning the Premier League last season. They were gutted, beyond gutted. And their goal is chasing this machine that is Manchester City. But they're also not willing to overpay for Mikel Merino. And that was on the line in the summer. We're not paying you a cent more. And now when you should be happy that there's responsible executives and owners that are willing to make those decisions. The beef people have is, I think the Kroenkes are one of the best owners in the Premier League. I really do. When you look at what happens to other clubs, but the beef fans have isn't with the Kroenkes. It's what the Kroenkes have given Mikel and what they feel Mikel has lacked to achieve yet. Because when you go so close to win a title, Dan, 2 seasons in a row, it is very difficult to overcome that as a fan. And then you start picking and looking at the missing pieces. Why didn't we spend this? Why didn't we get this player? Why are we in this position? Mikel has the power just as much as they've given him the power. And there's 4 people in that room that make these decisions. And it's not just him. But if anyone thinks that they don't want to win the title, they I don't want to say too much, but the stadium thing is very important to them in terms of stature. They don't like looking over at Tottenham Stadium being shiny. Yeah.
I've seen what the stadium at the Rams is. It's mad. They've got a beach and a lake around it. I mean, crikey, I wish we had something similar.
It's a spaceship. I didn't mean to go off on one there, but
No, I love the passion. And do you know what is, Soph? I mean, this super chat sums it up, actually. Brian says, I'm not a fan of the owners, but Sophie's giving me something to think about. That's why I like to get difference of opinions on. You know, people sit and rant in the chat about Tom and Igal and yourself and Harry and all this that have difference of opinion. But, you know, let's be real. The reason, if we all got on and we all actually, you know, sort of said, yes, it'd be a very boring show, wouldn't it? So there's always difference of opinions. That's why I love to debate stuff like that. So for me, there's reasons why I only back up my opinion. So if I always have an opinion that I'll back it up. I won't say something just for clout. I've never been about that. I've always said how I feel. And I just feel that there's been evidence and lack of ambition over the last 2 decades. And that's why we haven't won a title for 21 years. That's why we're 30 years without a European trophy, 31 without a League Cup, 21 without a title, and now 5 without an FA Cup. Now, for me, yeah, definitely they want to win. I've got no. I don't think Josh Kroenke would go, nah, I don't fancy that title. That's not what I'm meaning. I think what he needs to do, in my opinion, is show to the fan base that they will do anything and everything for this club right now. Not their American sport, because I only care about Arsenal, that being horrible. I don't care about the Rams or the Nuggets. I couldn't give a damn about them. I want Arsenal to win, right?
But
So
it's about them as business people, Dan. You can't just dismiss that stuff. And did they not write off how many contracts? People forget that. They gave Edu and Arteta the green light to write off millions of these bad players that were purchased, right? And some will say, well, it was under their watch.
Their money, though? That wasn't their money, though, was it? So that was
no, but the point is that that's money. It's still money. It's still money that comes out of the club that needs to pay these players. And they were willing to write off all of that stuff as well. So I get it. Like, you don't care about the nuggets and whatever, but it's like looking at a movie and, you know, it's Martin Scorsese who's directed it and you're like, oh yeah, he's got some good pedigree. I'll go watch his next film. You can't dismiss what they've done.
No, you can't dismiss what they've done over there. My problem I've got over there is it's one and done as far as I can see. They haven't dominated any of those sports, have they? Unless you can correct me and say they've won 5 out of the last 10, like Pep's done at City or that Roman's done at Chelsea.
Well, the Nuggets went close and eventually won it. The Avalanche were rebuilding. The Rams have been in it for the last however many years. They've gone to the NFC Championship game, gone to a Super Bowl and lost. They went back and won. They've been in it, you know. And yeah, that's a very competitive team. But we've been in it too. We could have won 2 titles, Dan. Is it because of the Cronkies that we didn't win the 2 titles over the last 2 seasons?
Well, that's my question. That is my question to the fans, because I have a lot of worries on the pitch with Mikel Arteta and have done for 5 years. So I'm the worst person to ask this question.
But answer me. I'm asking you. Is it because of the Cronkies we didn't win the title last season?
No, I put it down to Mikel Arteta for the last 2 years.
Okay.
If I'm honest. I do. I don't put it down to Pep like some do. Pep was just too good. No, Pep didn't make us lose those games. Arteta did. Like, we weren't good enough, in my opinion. I would say the Cronkies have an overall responsibility because he's their guy, right?
100%. 100%.
So
yes.
100%, you know, they're the people that can pull the plug at any time. And in my opinion, I think he's quite lucky still being in the job, in my brutal opinion. Some people disagree. But,
agree.
You know, if
Trossard scores that goal against Villa, right? If we don't make the mistake in the semi-final, in the quarterfinal against Bayern Munich in the Champions League, if we don't lose at home to West Ham 2-0, could have been 3 without the David Raya penalty save. Fulham over Christmas, like, that is manager-player responsibility.
Yeah, we're 1 game away, and that's Mikel's fault, in my opinion. Yeah. And that's me not saying I love the Cronkies and the Cronkies need to be
no.
It's
a fair conversation.
I think you know, for me, that's why I'm kind of looking at this thinking, and ultimately, if you don't believe Mikel Arteta is the guy, and there are genuinely people out there that think he is no good still, and you know, that's their opinions. Then you've got to look at the Cronkies as well and say, what are you going to do about that? And I will be in May, if we come trophyless, Sophie, in May, we have a bad season, and let's say we're fighting with Chelsea and Tottenham more than we are City and Liverpool. Let's just say that. I hope that's not the case. Let's say that, and we win nothing. I am looking at them. I'm no longer looking at Mikel. I'm no longer looking at Mikel going, I don't think you're good enough. Well, you've proved it for me for 5 years you're not good enough. What are you guys going to do about it up top? And if it's no, we believe in him, he's our Sean McVay, he's going to get 1 in the next 10 years like the Rams. I don't want 1 in the next 10 years. Like, I want him gone, and we replace him. We go and get someone who can get us across the line. And that would show ambition. Because, I mean, when you said about Emery, for me, I think the fans bloody got him out, mate. The fans, if you remember, we had Raul Sadlehi at the time and Husfami. It was a completely different regime. The Cronkies didn't even own us, I don't think, at that time.
No.
So there was difference there, right? For me now, it's different. If the fans actually started, because I think there's probably about 75 to 80% who still love Mikel of this fan base. They think he's the guy, he's going to get us across it eventually. And I think there's genuinely a number of fans that would wait another 5 years if it meant that he was going to win 1 in that 5 years. For me, it's kind of like, do it this year or go, and we give someone else a go. Because this is not Arteta FC. We are not a football club that way. It's right. Well, it's been 21 years. We're going to give you another 20 because you're more important than the club. So
no, he's not. Absolutely, I totally agree with you, Dan.
So
there's no one.
Under pressure, man. He's under pressure.
He should be under pressure. I completely agree with you. He's got to deliver. He's been underperforming in the domestic cup since he won it. We've been absolute garbage in the domestic cups, barring the season we got to the semi-final in the League Cup against Liverpool. Right. And I'm a Generation Xer. I love my domestic cups. I don't care what anyone says. And in the league, well, you talk about ambition and stuff like that, right? But last season, he gave us, Declan Rice. Ever since the Benjamin White, Tomiyasu, Ramsdale window, there has been an elevated version of who's coming. Do you not agree? Thomas Partey, they put their hands in their own pockets for that one because Mikel desperately wanted him. Now, fans want them to do that all the time and more often. But like we've said, financial fair play and all that crap, you can't do that, right? But this has been a bit of a culture. Again, I read it. I can't remember who it was. Was it Valverde? I heard that Wenger could have signed. I'm sick and tired of Arsene Wenger telling me and Arsenal fans who he could have signed. What's the point, dude? Never signed them. And I don't want to go back too much, but the evolution and the progression of Arsenal Football Club, it regressed so much that it's had to been rebuilt. We lost our winning culture, our identity, all of it. Stop telling me who you could have signed. Just sign someone, right? So I do think that year on year, over the last 3 years, we've brought in better players, and we pulled off the Rice. He chose to come to us over Manchester City. I get it. You want that duplicated in defense, in midfield, in attack. Saliba now is what, a $200 million pound player. We got him for nothing, really, when you think about it. Gabriel, I think people are looking at it also from the point of view, and he didn't bring in those players. Emery brought in those players. But the point is that we have been really smart in some of the players we've acquired. But you've always got to build on that. And you said it on the show, didn't you, Dan? We had Santi, Ozil, and Sanchez. We never went out and got like a proper DM. We never went out and got a proper defense. We never went and upgraded on Giroud. These things do have to change. There's no argument from me there. We absolutely have to do that. We have to elevate continually.
Yeah, and I think it starts in January. I genuinely do think it starts in January. And, look, I want to come to a close, but I do feel like there's a whole other show about that, because January for me is massive. And the amount of players that people keep linking us with, and today Arda Güler has come in as being potentially one. There's also been talks on Gyökeres. Alexander Isak is a player that people would like, but that's more of a summer move. I would love to go in for somebody like Kvaratskhelia, because I think he is absolutely brilliant. If we're going for a winger, that is who we should be going for, ahead of Nico Williams, in my opinion. But they're all costing money, so they're all costing hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds. And that is
does that young Turkish player get us to the next level?
Not in my opinion.
For me, I want who takes you over the line to win the title.
I agree.
Right? All these young players we keep, I love it. Youth is great and whatever. Give me, I don't want to say it out loud, but I'm just giving it as an example.
Gyökeres.
Give me a Gyökeres, give me a Rodri, give me that ilk of player, because we've seen the movie. We've seen the young Turkish player movie before, right? And you also give Waneri the chance. He could be the X factor. Why couldn't he be? Saka was given the chance. He's never looked back. But you've got to surround that type of team with next level players. That's where I will challenge the Cronkies. That's where I'll challenge Mikel Arteta to deliver. And I think this January is, if you really want to win the title and make up the difference, the spotlight is on them. Don't give me the January transfer window's difficult. No. Do you want to win? Because the longer we wait, Dan, I'll leave it at this, is Chelsea slowly catching up. Villa have evolved and emerged, right? I can't say anything about Tottenham because they always just seem to be Tottenham, but they're only 3 points behind us.
Yeah. And Man United do a bit of shambles in 13th for 4 points behind us. So I just, I look at it now. Things have got to change on the pitch. Things have got to be sorted in January. And, I don't think that, an Arda Güler is going to take us across the line as such. He might help, but certainly not going to go, wow, now we're ready. I think Gyökeres is the guy. He scored 4 goals again last night for Sweden. That guy is on absolute fire. It's ridiculous how good he is. So, look, there's a lot that we've got. Forest and Sporting, I actually have predicted that we will drop some points there, which is mad. I know people might think that's done already and it's crazy and it's negative, but I just think Forest are no easy game. I agree with what Harry said about Nuno's Wolves. I also think that with Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, they've got pace. I think Chris Wood knows where the goal is at the moment. Morgan Gibbs-White is a baller. They've got a defence at the moment, which is not the one to be messed with. You know, their goalkeeper's been good sells this season. Ayana's been a great fullback. And that Milenkovic is probably one of the signings of the summer. I think Murillo alongside him as well has been superb. So I just think this is going to be a tough game. And I wouldn't surprise me if we drop points here and we draw this game. I want to win. I hope we win. But it's going to be difficult. And then we go to Sporting Lisbon and play against Gyökeres' side. So it's not going to be easy the next first 2 games that we get coming back. Now, then, the easier fixture runs come on. So we've got to go on to a run now. And there's just no excuses for me now. Players back. You've got your team, Mikel. Go and get them playing. And that's the way I see it, man. So, look, we're going to come to a close there. So, absolute pleasure having you on. And, of course, big up to Harry as well, who was on earlier. Please make sure, if you're not doing so already, that you're following the Highbury Squad. All you've got to do is click on the title of here. It takes you straight there. Make sure you subscribe and go and check out what Sophie's been up to. Great show the other night with Harry and Tom as well. So, please make sure you go check that one out. Anything else you want to plug, Sophie, that you got coming up?
We've got Lee Judges on tomorrow night for the premiere of our Dicky Bow Thursday show. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Find out, you know how we like to mix it up at HS. We talk serious football as well. So it's going to be a mix of previewing the Forest game, but also Lee's going to let us know which 5 Arsenal players he would invite to his black tie dinner. So you're not going to want to miss that, and we'll preview Nottingham Forest as well. And then on Monday, we got James from AFTV to join us for Monday Madness to look at the weekend. And we look forward to having you back for a little more Get Off the Potsy and other good stuff as well. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone in chat. Really appreciate your comments. And listen, we all love our football club. And there's different ways of looking at football. We all want to win, right? So we're going to find out a lot about our team. Let's see what they're made of. And the owners that I've just backed and talked up, let's see what they do in January. I hope they're going to do the right thing, Dan.
So do I, mate. And I hope that we are talking next after a win and 3 points. Big up to you, Soph. Big up to everyone in the chat. Thanks for your interactions and your super chats. We'll see you next time. We'll be back tomorrow with more content, and I will see you then. Big up to Sophie. Big up to Harry. Make sure you go follow Chronicles of Aguna as well, and we will see you next time. Take it easy, people. We're out of here.